Hello students, hello everyone. In this video, I am going to discuss about recursive functions. Okay, it's on demand. Many students were asking for that. So I'm going to make this video, and in this video, I will discuss few recursive function. I will give you the concept of recursive function, and I will discuss few recursive functions. So without wasting your and my time, let's start with this first recursive function. So here on the screen you can see I have written one recursive function, and this recursive function is to find the factorial of a given number. Okay, so before discussing this function, let me introduce what is a recursive function, and through this example I will explain thoroughly. A recursive function is a function which calls itself. The function which calls itself is called recursive function. Okay, let me show you. See, the name of this function is what? Fact. And this function is calling itself. इस function के अंदर से इस function को call कर रहा है. This function is calling itself. So this is a recursive function. When a function calls itself, then it is called recursive function. Okay. So this function here I have defined to calculate the factorial of a number. Okay, you know what is factorial? Factorial 5 is calculated like 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5. Okay, so factorial 5 will be what? 120. So this function, if you pass 5 to this function will return 120. Okay, as a result. So this is a function to find the factorial of a number. So I'm going to discuss how it working and how to find the output of a recursive function. So consider we are calling this function fact and passing 5 as argument from anywhere. We are calling this function and passing what? 5 to this function. So this 5 will go to n. The value of n will be what? 5. Function call करते हैं तो control यहाँ पे जो भी parameter pass करोगे यहाँ आएगा. So value of n will be 5. Okay. Then control will go inside the function. Now see, what about this condition? This condition is false. Condition is false, so control will go for else, and it will come to this statement. Okay. Now listen. Before going further, let me explain one basic concept of function. What is that? Okay, when we call a function, what happens? When you call a function, what happens? Just look at my gesture. Look at my hand. When we call a function, what happens? Function goes to the, when we call a function, control goes to the function definition. जहाँ function हमने define किया, control goes to there. When we call a function, control goes to the function definition. After processing, control comes back to there from where it is called. ये basic concept है. When we call a function, control goes to the function definition. After processing, whatever you have defined function for whatever, after processing it comes back to there from where it is called. जहाँ से function call होता है, control वापस वहाँ जरूर आता है. Okay, so this is called one complete function call. One function call. If you're talking about one function call, it includes what it includes. What happens in one function call? Control goes to the function definition. After processing, it comes back to there from where it is called. Okay, so this is called one complete function call. So listen here, what will happen, what is happening here in this function. See this. So what we have called this function, what I have told, what is a complete function call? What is one complete function call? Again, I'm repeating. We call the function, control goes to the function definition. After processing, it comes back to there from where it is called. This is one function call, complete function call procedure. Okay. Now let's see. Here we have called the function 5. This 5 will go to n. So the value of n will be what? 5. This condition is false. Okay. Then control will reach here. So what should happen? If the value of n and this should be multiplied and should be returned to this function call. It should happen. Complete function call. What is a complete function call? After processing, control goes back to there from where it is called. So what should happen? The value of this n and this should be multiplied and should be returned to the function call, to this function call. But it will not happen like this. Here what will happen? Before multiplying these two and returning to this function call. Before multiplying and returning to this function call, what will happen? The function will be called again. यहाँ से function फिर से call हो जाएगा. Function will be called again. So the things will be postponed. For this function call, multiplication of these two, multiplication of this and returning will be postponed. Before that, this function will be called again. Before that, this function will be called again. इससे पहले कि इन दोनों की वैल्यू मल्टीप्लाई होकर रिटर्न होती, इन दोनों की वैल्यू मल्टीप्लाई होकर रिटर्न होती, फंक्शन फिर से कॉल हो गया. You can see this function is calling itself. Okay. So what is the value of n that I'm writing here? N is what? 5 into fact, and n minus 1 means n is what? 5. So 5 minus 1 will be what? 4. So again I'm repeating the thing. Before multiplying this and returning to this function call, the function will be called again. Function फिर से call हो गया. Okay, I hope it's clear. I have repeated many times. I hope it's clear to all. So 5 into fact 4. So what is postponed? What are the things postponed for this function call? Multiplication of this and returning. These things are postponed for this function call. Okay, before that function will be called again. So this time function we are calling the function and passing what? 4. The function will be called with the value 4. So the value of n will be what? Function call ho gaya, say n minus 1 we are passing 4. That will go to n. So the n will be what? 4. The value of n will be what? 4. Okay. Now this condition is false. So condition is false. So control will reach here. And before multiplying these two and returning to this function call, function will be called again. That I'm showing you. 4 into fact. N minus 1 means what now? 3. N minus 1 is 3. So for this function call, before multiplying this and returning, the function will be called again. इस function call के लिए क्या होता? इन दोनों की वैल्यू मल्टीप्लाई होती और रिटर्न होती, उससे पहले फंक्शन फिर से कॉल हो गया. ओके, सो बिफोर multiplying this and returning to this function call, this function will be called again. So for this function call, two things will be postponed. Same thing will be postponed as it happened in previous function call. For this function call also the same thing will be postponed. Multiplication of these two and returning will be postponed. Before that function will be called again. फिर से function call हो गया. And this time what are we passing? We are passing 3. This 3 will go to n. So the value of n will be what? 3. Now this condition is false. So again same thing will happen. What is this? 4. Again same thing will happen. N is what? 3 into fact 2. N minus 1 means 2. So before multiplying and returning to this function call, the function will be called again. इससे पहले कि इन दोनों की वैल्यू मल्टीप्लाई होके रिटर्न होती, फंक्शन फिर से कॉल हो गया. Before multiplying and returning to this function call, the function will be called again. So for this function call also, multiplication of these two and returning will be postponed. Before that the function will be called again. And this time what are we passing? We are passing 2. So the value of n will be what? 2. Okay. N equal to 2. Then condition true. Then same thing will happen. What is the value of n? 2 into fact n minus 1. The value of n is what? 2. So 2 minus 1, 1. The same thing will happen for this function call. Before multiplying and returning to this function call, the function will be called again. इससे पहले कि इन दोनों की वैल्यू मल्टीप्लाई होके रिटर्न होती, फंक्शन फिर से कॉल हो जाएगा. And this time we are passing what? We are passing 1. So this 1 will go to n. The value of n will be what? 1. Now please listen carefully. Now the value of n is what? 1. Now this condition is true. Now be careful. Now listen carefully. This condition is true. So what this function will return? This function will return 1. So as you know, when a function returns a value, control goes back to there from where it is called. कंट्रोल वापस वहीं चला जाएगा जहां से कॉल हुआ था. लास्ट टाइम यहीं से कॉल हुआ था, तो कंट्रोल will come back to this function call. So what this function call is returning, getting back 1. Again, I'm repeating for this last function call. We called the function, we passed 1 to the function, so n will be 1. This condition is true, so control this function returning 1. So as you know, when a function returns a value, control goes back to there from where it is called. So control will come back to here. So what this function call is getting back 1. So now think about this last function call. Anything is postponed for this function call? Is anything postponed for this function call? Nothing. We called and we get back the value. Okay, so nothing is postponed for this function call. So in because of this condition, at this condition, in each and every recursive function, there should be such condition where the recursion should be stopped. In each and every function, there should be such condition for because of that the recursion will be stopped. Such conditions are called base condition. Base condition. Okay. So the thing about the last function call, for last function call nothing is postponed. फंक्शन कॉल हुआ, कंट्रोल फंक्शन पे गया और वहां से एक वैल्यू रिटर्न भी आ गई. वी कॉल द फंक्शन, आफ्टर प्रोसेसिंग कंट्रोल इज कमिंग बैक टू देयर. सो कंप्लीट फंक्शन कॉल. For last function call nothing is postponed. Got it? I hope it's clear. So and this is because of this condition, and in each and every recursive function you will have, there should be, it must be such condition. Because of that recursion will be stopped, and such conditions are called base condition. Please keep in mind base condition. This is called base condition. Okay. Then, so for this function call nothing is postponed. Nothing is postponed. Then what happens? Control goes back to the previous function calls, and the things which are postponed will be executed in reverse order. Okay, again I'm repeating. Now after stopping the recursion, after when recursion will be stopped, control will go back to the previous function calls, and the things which were postponed will be executed now, will be completed now in reverse order. So fact 1 completed. Now it will go to this function call. For this function call, the things were what were the things which were absent are multiplication of these two and returning. For this function call, what was postponed? Multiplication of these two and returning. So 2 into 1, 2 and returning to this function call. So returned. Okay. Now it will go to the previous function call. For this function call also the same thing was postponed. Multiplication and returning. So the 3 into 2, 6, multiplication and returning. 6 will be returned. Then same thing for this function call. Control will go back to the previous function call. For this function call also, multiplication and multiplication of this and this and returning. So 4 into 6, 24 will be returned. Now for this function call, multiplication and returning. Okay. So finally this function returning what? 120. This function returning what? 120. Okay. So this function, recursive function, is here to find the to find the factorial of a number using recursive technique. This is a recursive function which is calculating, which is returning the factorial of a given number. Okay. I hope it's clear. If any doubt, you can ask through the comment section.